Democrats are praising President Biden's response to the Silicon Valley bank collapse, but the New York Post pointing out that the move is nothing more than a bailout to his rich donor base. 98% of all political contributions from tech employees went to Democrats in 2020, with one insider telling the Post, Silicon Valley Bank is the bank of the Democrats. They're looking after their own. If it was the bank of MAGA, what are the chances it would be bailed out? There's not a chance in hell. Democrats say Biden did a bang-up job and is setting the stage for more handouts to Americans.
How we were able to protect jobs and how we were able to get those payrolls done so that these owners of these small tech companies could pay their staffs, et cetera. We did a miraculous job.
I believe the Fed did the right thing to protect depositors and a lot of these companies. But when you look at Jackson, Mississippi, when you look at East Palestine, Ohio, when you look at folks with student debt and medical debt, they see that the Congress isn't capable of acting in 3 days the way they were capable to act here. And that is a big issue in this country. Why is it that some people who deserve relief get the relief and others don't?
And part of the question, Greg, is, Republicans are blasting President Biden and accusing him of special treatment.
This is a bailout. They're going to pass that fee on to community banks, every bank in America.
Part of their investment portfolio, they made loans to very risky ventures based more on their liberal wokeness than on the actual ability for that borrower to pay the loans back.
Now the question is, do we really have a limit on FDIC insurance? If you don't, it becomes a moral hazard and a perverse incentive for executives to take more risks because there's a lot of reward and no downside.
Oh, that's exactly what I was going to say. Greg, your thoughts?
Well, I am not a banking expert, everything that they just said could be right, that these are woke investors, people on the board don't have the expertise. They searched out, the right virtue signal and the right box to tick for identity instead of economic competence, which lets everybody down. But I don't think it's a bailout to give relief to depositors. I think that, and I don't like the setup of this team sport politics. Well, if it's a Trump bank, it would be this way. Well, if it was this way, that's completely fabricated and you don't know. You should try to stave off the idea of people running to the banks, right? This is a small bank. They had some wacky board, but you have to deposit. The reason why the Fed is there is to protect people's. They didn't do anything wrong. If you put money in a bank, you didn't do anything. You didn't commit any sins. You were doing the right thing. Where are you supposed to put your money, Jesse?
A bigger bank.
A bigger bank. That's exactly that's kind of the point.
One that's supposed to be insured.
Yes, exactly. That's why I'm not an expert. But I'm also a hypocrite because I'm against bailouts. But I don't feel like this is a bailout. I think the investors should be on the hook. I think that the people that run the bank should be on the hook. But the people that just deposited their money in there, they did, are they required to do their due diligence every time? I don't do that.
No, I do not.
I do not.
But part of the issue here is that, the risk assessment is different in a smaller bank than a bigger bank. And the whole point, the larger picture that I see here is that the answer is never larger government. The answer is not government when they talk about Congress acting, government meddling. We know from 2008 that that's exactly the right way to set up for more failure. And every dollar that the government spends is our money to begin with.
Well, I want to talk about how woke they are because Harold, with all due respect, yesterday was telling me this was not a woke bank, so I did some digging.
Yeah, it is.
First of all, they pledged $75 million to Black Lives Matter, and no one on the bank's board is a banker. There's one banker on the board, and the rest of them are Clinton and Obama mega donors. Then Janet Yellen appoints this woman, probably a nice woman, to oversee this bank. She's the San Francisco Fed chair. And she's so excited on her first day of the job, Emily. She makes a little video and she kisses her wife goodbye at the door. And then she puts a little backpack on and she goes to the bank and everybody claps for her and they make a little video. And she knows nothing. She's supposed to oversee what's going on here, and she totally missed it. Not only did she miss this bank's collapse, she missed inflation, too. But like Greg said, she's got her eyes all over diversity. This bank was all about gender equality. You say you want to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time, right? If you want to have Pride Month at the bank, if you want to do silly little skits about inclusivity, fine. But keep your eye on the balance sheet. If you're doing all this woke stuff and you're not looking at the finances, then that's a problem. And that's what everyone has a problem with, is the priorities of the bank.
Every single business has this problem. For some reason, the priorities are changing, and you're going to have, like, no one's looking for expertise or competence. And you can pick entertainment, you could pick any place, restaurants, anything you want is going to have this problem.
Including federal agencies, Dana, not only defense and intelligence, which are atrocious and a different subject, but also the SEC. So what I find so ironic is in the cleanup, so the DOJ is now investigating, the SEC is investigating in addition to civil suits. But what has the SEC been doing this entire time? They've been demanding that these banks and businesses comply with carbon footprints, ESG, diversity and inclusivity. They're not doing anything to protect the actual investor. So why are they the ones that are now going to be investigating this?
It is very interesting. And the Justice Department looking into what was happening 2 weeks before this bank fell, I think is what I really want to know about. Because if the head guy is selling stocks and handing out bonuses, that should be a red flag. And, you know, nobody caught that. And all of a sudden, Peter Thiel, I mean, he caught wind somehow. So whoever's supposed to be minding the hen house should have caught it as well. But they didn't. And so what's interesting, too, is how quickly this happened. So they were solvent on Wednesday, and they're not on Friday. That was very quick. And Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank was on a newsroom this morning, and he thinks that the government did overreact and that we're heading down into this position where you would have no private sector banks. And you wonder why Elizabeth Warren is licking her chops. Because she wants nationalized government banks. She wants all of those banks to be backed up by the federal government. Is that the right thing to do? I don't think so. And I don't think we can do that overnight. I think Congress actually has to have some sort of a say in that. We don't have it yet. And I do want to do a little whataboutism, because why not? It's been 10 minutes. I haven't done it. Smaller regional agriculture banks are very important to rural America. So if you are a farmer or a rancher, you usually know your banker. I remember the banker that my grandfather had. He came and he was a part of the cattle drive. And it was neighborly, and you understood. And so if my grandfather needed to go to the bank and say, we got to buy X amount of cattle, or we have this much hay to sell, can you help me out? We need to buy some more equipment. We need to finance it. That guy understands that. The big bank at JP Morgan in New York doesn't, and that's why these regional banks are important in lots of different sectors. The Mississippi Bank during COVID was one of the best at getting out PPP loans to small businesses who legitimately were applying for that money and needed it in order to keep their businesses afloat. So I think that would be interesting if there was a thought experiment. I don't want this to happen. But would these Democrats who are running to defend SVB Bank, because that's where all those donors are, would they defend an agricultural bank?
Question to you, Jesse.
I'm going to go with yes. There are a lot of Democrats that are in elected office in the heartland. They care about it. They talk about it. John Tester is a great example. Heidi Heitkamp, who ended up losing her election. I mean, I don't think that it's one of those cases. I think that Greg is right. Why is it the depositors' fault? And why, for some of these companies, you're running a business, it is not your responsibility to check on whether your bank is messing up at this level every couple of months. And this is a story that started being reported months ago. The Wall Street Journal started talking about when you have interest rate hikes at this level and people are buying up treasury bonds, which are not supposed to be sold again in 5 to 10 years, you're supposed to get, and then suddenly they're going to turn around and start selling them. The market is not going to reflect what the actual value of it is. And something that matters a lot to this, and Dana said it happened so quickly, a bank run is, the tale as old as time, right? But being able to do a bank run off your phone is what isn't, right? That a few people can get on Twitter, start tweeting out, get out, get out, get out, and suddenly $42 billion needs to leave your coffers within 24 hours. I mean, that's an impossibility and something that we have to deal with. I want to say something about what the Post said. You know, if it was a MAGA bank, it basically was. Peter Thiel was one of the top 5 biggest VCs there, huge backer of Donald Trump 2016, 2020. In 2022, he resigned from the board of Meta. He was one of the original board members so that he could back J.D. Vance. He could join a Trump-aligned PAC for J.D. Vance and Blake Masters. This embarrassing thing, whatever Jesse was talking about, all the wokeness. If you look at who's running that bank, it's a bunch of white guys and 3 women. And the jobs that those 3 women have, by the way, are roles that traditionally women have: HR, the CMO, and then the chief risk officer, who obviously was not doing a great job there.
So are you blaming
So you're saying that we needed more white guys?
No, I'm really not saying that at all.
That's what I heard.
And in terms of ESG investing, so I was looking around for Republicans who believe in it. Someone like Steve Schwartzman, who runs Blackstone, it's a huge pillar of their business. I have never encountered someone who works in finance who cares more about having black faces or trans people at the table more than they care about money. So obviously investing in these things is good for the bottom line, and it's not just some woke venture. Who's on the board is not who's running these things.
Well, whoever running it is an idiot.
Yeah,
he just got wiped out.
Becker is an idiot, but that's not a wokeness initiative.
Sure,
that's a white
guy. They
guy.
have a ton of ESG junk in there too.
Right,
they
that makes
finance
people
all the solar
money.
panels, and
That-
they have
that
all
makes
of
people-
Newsom's vineyards locked up in the bank too.
Jesse Waters versus Steve Schwartzman. I will pay to see it.
I'm going to go with
this.
Schwartzman too on this.
No, but I think that you both can be right.
No, we can't. I want.
Let her have one.
All right. No, what I was going to say is you're adding another variable of pressure into a mix that doesn't talk about profit. You could say, oh, this leads to making more money. There's no way you can prove that. There's no like, oh, this will cause you to make more money. Right. So it adds this extra pressure to somebody who should only be focused on the numbers and not on what people look like. That's the disease.
Yes, she's less profitable, actually, if you look at the statistics. I don't want to go down that road with you.
Really?
To be continued, everyone.
Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Kilmeade. I want you to do me a favor. I want you to click to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page. This is the only way that I know for sure that you're not going to miss any great commentary, any great news bites, any great interviews coming your way on Fox. You can get it all here on YouTube. So subscribe right now.